It all started on a warm Friday evening in downtown Atlanta. Chris Dawson had just turned 30, and his life was not exactly what he had imagined. Despite holding a decent job as a marketing consultant and having a solid group of friends, his love life was a complete mess. He wasn't unattractive or rude, but something seemed off. Women didn't notice him much. He was often referred to as the nice guy, the reliable one, and the friend zone expert. That title didn't sit well with him anymore. One evening, Chris found himself scrolling through his phone, frustrated after being ghosted by yet another girl from a dating app. His roommate, Tyler, walked in wearing a confident smirk, dressed to the nines. "You coming out tonight?" Tyler asked while adjusting his collar in the mirror.
Chris sighed.
"I don't know, man. Feels like a waste of time. I keep putting in effort and getting nowhere." Tyler chuckled. "Maybe you're trying too hard." Chris raised a brow. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Look," Tyler said, leaning against the wall. "You've got everything a woman should want. You're smart, kind, successful. But you come off like you need their approval. And that, my friend, is where you lose them." That one sentence echoed in Chris's head all night. You come off like you need their approval. The next morning, Chris took a long walk through Piedmont Park and did something he hadn't done in a long time, he reflected. It wasn't about the women, he realized. It was about how he saw himself. He wasn't choosing who he wanted in his life. He was auditioning for people to like him. He made a decision that day. He wasn't going to chase anymore. Instead, he'd focus on becoming the best version of himself, for himself. He started small. He deleted the dating apps. He cleaned up his apartment. He started hitting the gym regularly, not to impress women, but because he wanted to feel strong and capable. He read books, not just about relationships, but about psychology, finance, philosophy. He took care of his grooming, changed his wardrobe slightly, not for validation, but because he liked how it made him feel. The transformation wasn't overnight, but it was noticeable. At work, he began asserting his ideas with more clarity. He stopped over-explaining himself. He walked into meetings with his head high and a calm, deliberate pace. People noticed. 2 weeks later, his colleague Melissa, who used to barely acknowledge him, asked if he wanted to grab coffee after work.
Chris was surprised.
Sure, he replied with a smile, but didn't overthink it. At the cafe, Melissa kept leaning in, laughing at his jokes more than usual. She asked a lot of questions, played with her hair, and kept mentioning how different he seemed lately. It happened again the following week. A girl at the gym who used to give him polite nods now struck up full conversations. A barista who used to just say, "Next," now asked how his weekend was going. It was like something shifted in the universe. In truth, it wasn't the universe. It was him. One night, he went out with Tyler and some friends. At the bar, a woman named Rachel walked up and introduced herself. Chris was polite, engaged, and confident, but not needy. When she playfully tested him with a sarcastic comment, he smiled and replied with light humor. She seemed intrigued. "I like your energy," Rachel said. "You're different."
Chris laughed.
"I get that a lot lately." As they talked, Rachel leaned in and touched his arm lightly. She wasn't the only one. Throughout the evening, other women glanced over, smiled, and some even tried to get his attention. Tyler pulled Chris aside and said, "Dude, what changed?
Seriously,
You've got women orbiting you like your gravity." Chris shrugged with a smile. "I stopped chasing." But there was more to it. He had stumbled upon a powerful truth that only a few men ever realize. When you stop seeking external validation and focus on building a rich, fulfilling life for yourself, people become drawn to that energy. Women, in particular, are incredibly attuned to authenticity and confidence, not the fake kind, but the kind rooted in self-respect and purpose. Chris didn't play games. He didn't use cheesy pickup lines or try to manipulate anyone. He simply knew what he wanted, respected himself, and refused to waste energy on anyone who didn't reciprocate. In the weeks that followed, his dating life took off, but not in a chaotic, player-style way. Instead, women chased him. Not because he was arrogant or emotionally unavailable, but because he gave off the kind of energy that made them feel safe, intrigued, and respected. He was a man with standards, a man with purpose. He dated Rachel for a few months. It was good, but eventually they both moved on. Chris didn't see it as a failure. He saw it as growth. He wasn't trying to force connections anymore. Then came Lindsay. She worked in the same building as him, but on a different floor. One afternoon, they found themselves stuck in the elevator during a power glitch. What started as small talk turned into an exchange of stories and ideas. They laughed, teased each other, and when the doors finally opened again, she asked if he wanted to grab lunch. That lunch led to dinner. Then hiking on a Saturday. Then a weekend trip to Asheville. With Lindsay, things felt easy but exciting. She wasn't chasing him for status or games. She was drawn to his peace, his clarity, and the way he made her feel, like she didn't have to impress him, only be herself. Chris didn't need to prove anything. He listened. He led when it was needed. He didn't shy away from disagreements, but he didn't fight to win either. He understood the power of presence and emotional control. And because of that, Lindsay stayed. Months later, they were still together, and stronger than ever. Chris often thought about that statistic he read online once, how 95.7% of women end up chasing the man who stops chasing them.
It used to sound like clickbait.
Now, he understood the deeper truth behind it. It wasn't about playing hard to get or pretending not to care. It was about actually valuing yourself enough to walk away from what doesn't serve you and becoming so aligned with your own life that others can't help but be curious. The shocking truth was simple. Women aren't drawn to perfection. They're drawn to certainty. A man who knows who he is and doesn't seek approval is magnetic. Chris learned that love isn't something you pursue desperately. It's something you attract effortlessly when you start living like you already matter. And in the end, he didn't just gain the attention of women. He gained something far more valuable: self-respect, inner peace, and a life that felt like his own. That was the truth no one had told him before. And once he embraced it, everything changed.